for the Rays, one reason I like this move for them is, you already got a few guys there, but one position that's still a little up in the air is the shortstop position, right? You got Jose Caballero there, you got Taylor Walls, but when it comes to Caballero, is he really going to be a long-term solution? Taylor Walls, the bat hasn't really emerged as of right now. With Kim, and he's not going to be ready for opening day. It's going to take him a little bit to come back. So this is a move where I think it signals that the Rays I think people are forgetting about the Rays a little bit, right? Sure, this past year didn't really do all that much, right? But it wasn't like they had an abysmal season. They were 80-82. I mean, yeah, it's not great, obviously, but it's not like a Chicago White Sox kind of a record. It's not, 60 wins, just under 500. Adding someone like Kim, a guy that's going to make your team better. With Kim, is he going to be giving you 30 plus homers per year with a, 160, 170 WRC plus? No, but a guy that's going to contribute in a lot of ways. He's going to be a tough at bat. He's going to be hard to strike out. He's going to, be a nuisance up there for the opposing teams in the American League East. A guy that's going to give you great defense. He's going to give you good base running. He does all the things that, he's not Aaron Judge by any means, but he's still a very good player. I like this move a lot for the Rays. Again, he's one of those players. He's like a glue kind of a player. Not a superstar by any means, but a guy that's, also going to bring some energy to the clubhouse a little bit, right? I'm a big fan of Ha-Seong Kim. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the game. A guy, like I said, he's not Aaron Judge, he's not Shohei Ohtani, but he contributes to winning in a lot of ways. And this Rays team, listen, they got a lot of talent here. Obviously, a lot of young talent coming up. We just saw with Junior Caminero in the final a couple of nights ago, a guy hit a bomb out to center field. I'm telling you, Junior Caminero, do not sleep on that guy this year. They got some other talent here. Obviously still got Yandy Diaz. Could they end up moving him? I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys. His name keeps coming up and he just doesn't end up getting moved. So I don't know. Does he get moved? Doesn't seem like it at this point. Brandon Lau, obviously, Josh Lowe, hopefully a bounce back season for him. But when you take a look at the pitching staff, you got a lot of guys that are coming back. Shane McClanahan missing all this past year. Shane Baz came back this year. That's an electric arm when healthy. Pepio was pretty solid this year. Rasmussen, Taj Bradley, Zach Littell. You got a lot of guys in this rotation. Their bullpen always seems to step up every single year. I like it. Listen, I'm saying right now, do not sleep on the Rays. They're one of those teams where I feel like not a lot of people are talking about them. And a lot of people, when the Rays come up, you think about Tropicana, right? How it got destroyed in the hurricane, how they're going to be going to a minor league park. Who cares if they're going to a minor league park? Who cares? There's still talent here, and I think they're going to be a pesky team yet again, especially if their pitching can stay healthy. Overall, I like this move. I've thought it's a good fit for a while. Coming into the offseason, I thought he would just go back to the Padres because of the shoulder injury, maybe like a 1-year kind of a deal, come back after a couple of months, play through the year, and then go into free agency next year. But, the Rays were one team. I thought they were a pretty good fit for a while. So, overall, I like this move. And of course, I forgot to hit the button. I swear, I need a producer. I need someone to be running this little stuff for me, man. My potato brain, I can never remember to hit the buttons, man. All right, moving on here. Carlos Estevez going to the Royals. Listen, there is nothing wrong with bolstering that bullpen even more. And when it comes to the Royals, I've been thinking this offseason, I remember going into the offseason, I was thinking Clay Holmes could be a pretty good fit. And then you started seeing reports about how he could be a starter. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, if he's going to end up being a starter, well, maybe not the Royals, right? Because the rotation, especially with Chris Bubic going in there, kind of didn't really seem like a possibility at that point. But I thought in my head, the Royals going into the offseason, yeah, I felt like they could have used another arm at the back end of that bullpen, even after bringing Lucas Erceg and Hunter Harvey into the mix. Felt like they still needed another guy. And the reason for that was their bullpen in the first half last year, 22nd overall, kind of whatever numbers, a 4.21 ERA, 4.14 on the FIP, not a whole lot of strikeouts. Now, they did address it at the deadline. Like I said, Lucas Erceg, you brought in Harvey as well. He didn't do all that much in the second half, but you did see an improvement with the bullpen. Lucas Erceg was a big part of that bullpen in the second half. He pitched well in the postseason as well. They were 11th overall in the second half with relief pitching. Fangraph WAR, ERA at a 4, but a good FIP at a 3.54. You saw an increase in the strikeouts. But to me, though, the thinking in my head was, okay, yeah, Erceg, Harvey, good additions there, right? Just because of the bad start they got off to last year, I felt like it would have been a nice idea to just really shore up the bullpen. And I'm glad they went out and did this. Estevez, this is a guy, I feel like there's been a lot of negativity around him. I like Carlos Estevez a lot. And, especially now, this is a guy that's going to a pitcher-friendly park over there in Kaufman. Sure, back in 2023, not amazing numbers by any means, ERA just under a 4 along with the FIP, but, a good strikeout number there. The walks are a little high, but he addressed the walks this past year. He sacrificed the strikeouts. That went down a lot this past year. He just focused more on getting a bit more contact, but the walks went way down. Solid numbers. ERA at 2.45, FIP at a 3.24. This is a guy that's going to go out there. He's going to bring some energy out of that bullpen. I like it. Now, the question is, who's going to be the closer? I kind of wonder if maybe they kind of just go into spring training and say, all right, hey, you guys, go battle it out. Whoever has the better spring, whoever we think is looking the best coming out of spring training, we'll go with you, right? That's what I feel like is going to end up happening because, the way Lucas Erceg pitched for the Royals down the stretch, he looked great, but obviously Estevez has the experience over the last couple of years. With Erceg, this is a guy that obviously pitched in a setup role behind Mason Miller this past year. So if it ends up being Estevez, then I think that's fine. And Erceg ends up being continues to be a dominant setup man. Hopefully Harvey can give you a bit more. John Schreiber, right, obviously picked him up last offseason. Speaking of John Schreiber, I interviewed the guy that the Red Sox got back in return for John Schreiber last offseason, David Sandlin. You can go find that interview over on Monster Territory. I'm having a good time, man, interviewing all these guys. First we started off with Mikey Romero, then we ended up somehow, some way, we got Alex Cora on the show, and now David Sandlin coming on most recently. Had a good conversation with him today, around 20 minutes long. Go check that out if you would like to hear more into that. But overall, hey, the Royals, liking the moves they've made, bringing in Jonathan India this offseason. Think that's solid. A guy that's just going to give you a decent amount of production, right? He's not going to be, Bobby Witt Jr. by any means, but a guy that's going to get on base for you. Good clubhouse guy. Really like that move overall. Could they maybe still do something with this lineup? I don't think they necessarily have to. You got someone like a Maikel Garcia. He's going to give you a ton of speed, but could you maybe use a bit of an improvement with the bat there? Possibly. There has been a small little connection with Nolan Arenado. We'll talk about him in just a little bit here, but could they get into that mix of maybe, bringing him in? I don't know. They have popped up with him this offseason. I still feel like they could make another addition for this lineup. We'll see. Obviously, the starting pitching was great. Really like the way the Royals are looking right now. I think they're going to be, once again, very competitive. Moving on here. And we got a super chat coming in. How are we doing? Super chat coming in from Sir Silent of the Fogs. What a great name. $2 super chat. David Robertson, Wrigley would like you back here. Listen, sorry to rain on that parade, my friend, but I need the Red Sox to start stepping up a little bit here. Go get a right-handed reliever. I think David Robertson makes all the sense for the Boston Red Sox. Listen, you got Ryan Presley, okay? Let the Red Sox, I know we brought in Chapman too, but I think David Robertson makes a lot of sense for the Red Sox, and that's not even any bias. I mean, he makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams out there, but, based off of how the Red Sox have been spending, they like to keep the years down as little as possible. To me, you can get Robertson on a 1-year deal. Seems to make a lot of sense. We'll see where Robertson ends up going, but I don't know. But if he ends up going here to the Cubs, I mean, listen, that would be a great reunion. That bullpen would be very solid with Ryan Presley, Porter Hodge, and David Robertson as well. I would love that for the Cubbies. Hey, but I would love it for my Red Sox even more. I'm just saying. Moving on here. Speaking of the Red Sox, how about a division rival here with the Blue Jays? Max Scherzer, listen, he keeps popping up here for the Blue Jays. I will keep touching on this, but the first time we saw this report come out, I'm thinking in my head, like, really? Like, Scherzer, Blue Jays? I mean, is he going to want to go there? Because in my head, I'm thinking Scherzer, at this point in his career, he probably wants to go somewhere where he thinks he has the best shot at winning. Now, not taking anything away from the Blue Jays. They have made a couple of moves here. He brought in Santander. He brought in Jeff Hoffman. They've been connected with Pete Alonso. They've been connected with every free agent out there. I'll say this. If they could land Alonso, I think there's a good shot they could land Scherzer as well. But with Scherzer, also Mark Feinsand is, the report was that the Blue Jays have really emerged as a front runner. When we've been kind of hearing these reports, but it's coming from Feinsand too, saying here a number of teams have been loosely connected to Scherzer this winter, that the Blue Jays appear to be the most serious about signing him. Toronto has been hot for him for about 2 months, one source said. They certainly feel like the favorites to get him. It's just going to be interesting, to see where, where he ends up, and if it ends up being the Blue Jays, you also got to think too, yes, there have been a lot of teams, watching him pitch this offseason. That was another part of this story where he was throwing a bullpen at the Cressy Performance Center. And, I'm sure there's a lot of interest, but if you're looking for the complete package, a chance to compete for, a playoff spot, a fair salary, could the Blue Jays be that answer that checks off all the boxes? I don't know. I think, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think it just comes down to, would he want to go there? It would be just for 1 year, most likely. Who knows? Maybe 2. I'm not sure how much longer he wants to go. We'll see. But Mark Feinsand reporting that the Blue Jays continue to remain a front runner for Scherzer. If I'm thinking of some other teams that, because again, touching on the fact that there are a lot of teams scouting him, another idea could be the Atlanta Braves. I can't find the Braves on here. My brain, there it is. Could the Braves maybe hop in here and maybe get something done? I was kind of thinking at one point, maybe Verlander could have been an option, right? I mean, a veteran guy here, that'd be pretty cool. Chris Sale and Max Scherzer in the same rotation. I'm not sure, what happens with, Grant Holmes, Ian Anderson at that point. You are going to get Spencer Strider back at some point. But, hey, to me, if you got Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, Strider, Schwellenbach, and Scherzer, I think that's pretty fun. I'd look out for the Braves. We'll see. And it's a 1-year deal or 2 max. I could see Anthopoulos liking that. I would love for Detroit, a homecoming here. I would love for them to bring in a good veteran guy like this, especially with all the young talent they have there. I just like the intangible kind of a fit there. We'll see. And hey, the Tigers, hey, they made a move a little earlier. We'll talk about them in just a second. If I'm thinking of some other teams, I don't know. Could you see the Padres? I mean, I know I just made a video earlier saying maybe they could, maybe trade off some guys. But if they ended up moving, say, Dylan Cease or Michael King, maybe you can bring in Scherzer on a 1-year deal. Remember, go back a few years ago, there was that one time where it looked like the Padres could have been closing in on a deal. Maybe they could figure out something, bringing him on a 1-year deal, possibly give him a little bit of depth there. We'll see. I see you in the chat. Tiger Town, we're bringing back Jack Flaherty. I would also love that. Flaherty, that's an interesting case. We'll talk about him in just a second here. But very interesting case. It feels like he's been making his rounds as of late, going on foul territory not too long ago. He's been active on social media. I think it's very interesting to see where he goes. I could see the Tigers, being, open to the idea of bringing him back. He just pitched very well for them. It seemed like a good connection. And when they traded him, they were out of contention at that point. They made a great run in the second half. But to me, why not? Getting back to Scherzer, I could see, maybe the Padres in like a 1-year deal, if they're still looking to compete. I mean, I would imagine they are. I mean, there's still so much talent there. I'm just not sure what's going on with the front office there. They've had a pretty terrible offseason. They've had a non-existent offseason. There's nothing going on. The most we heard about the Padres was Roki Sasaki, and they lost out to their division rival LA Dodgers. So it'll be interesting, that, and I'm talking about that from an addition point of view. We've been hearing more about subtractions from the Padres. Could Scherzer be a possible addition? We'll see. If I'm thinking of some other teams, I don't know, would the Angels, they could always use more pitching. Would he want to go there? I don't know. Maybe a reunion with the Nationals. That could be pretty fun. Well, the Giants, probably not. You brought in Verlander. I don't know. Cubbies. The Cubs, they seem intent on adding another guy. We'll see here. But I think Scherzer, look out. But then again, maybe it could just be the Blue Jays, right? Could they be the team that checks off the most boxes when it comes to Scherzer, right? But again, the only hurdle, will he want to go there, right? Very small sample size this past year, 9 starts, but still saw a lot of Reds here. Very good chase percentage, good walk percentage. Sure, the velo, it's not what it used to be, but whatever. He can still get the job done. So we'll see what ends up happening here with Max Scherzer. Now, moving on to some other news and rumors across Major League Baseball. I mean, listen, bringing up Jack Flaherty here a second ago, there are still a lot of guys out here. We did see some activity today, right? Ha-Seong Kim, Estevez. I'm going to bring up a couple other moves here in a second, but there is still a lot of beef on the market here. Bregman, I'll tell you all this right now. I got a little birdie news. I got to come up with some little graphic or something. If I get any sort of news from the little birdie out there, I got to do some little thing where a bird flies across the screen or something. I don't know. But I was told with Bregman that it's very possible you could see him still on the board here going into spring training. Just like we saw last year. All those guys with Boris, all of them were on the market. Listen, I don't know. I talked about this the other night. If I'm a Boris client right now, like Bregman, like Alonso, I'm frustrated. I would be. Because to me, I'm looking at it from the point of view where you got pitchers and catchers reporting in a couple of weeks. You want to figure out, what are you doing when it comes to your living situation? What are you doing when it comes to, if you're moving to a new city, you got to figure out everything going on. You know what I mean? You want to just get something figured out. You want to get something figured out, man. I don't know. Bregman, I would be pretty frustrated. We got a little something on him. I'll talk about that in just a second. Obviously, Alonso. I mean, that whole thing has just been kind of ridiculous. You still got Flaherty. You still got Pivetta. Scherzer, like I mentioned. You still got some guys down here that could be decent contributors to a team. Someone like Kyle Gibson, a veteran guy, can give you some innings. Jose Quintana can be a decent lefty back into the rotation guy. Another veteran guy like Lance Lynn. Andrew Heaney, a metrics darling. Jose Iglesias, Mr. OMG himself, still out there after a good year. Jorge Polanco. He seems like the fallback option for the Astros. If Bregman doesn't go back there, do they turn to him? Still got Yasmani Grandal out there, veteran catcher. Harrison Bader, good defensive center fielder. Alex Verdugo, is this guy even going to be able to get a contract? I mean, what's going on with him? David Robertson, Justin Turner still out there. A lot of guys are still on the board. Even Randall Grichuk, a good platoon bat. Paul DeYoung, Ramon Laureano, still Kenley Jansen. There's so many guys still out here. So getting to Alex Bregman here. Jeff Passan talking on the Michael Kay show. And unfortunately, sad news for me. He says here, I don't think Boston is particularly likely to happen at this point with Alex Bregman. He seemed to think, this is from Boston Sports Gordo, seemed to think the Astros, Blue Jays, and Tigers are all more likely landing spots. We've talked about the Astros here over the last couple of streams. At one point, I thought they were just out of it, right? You brought in Paredes in the Kyle Tucker trade. You brought in Christian Walker to play first base. Now I'm thinking, all right, well, okay. Well, that's that. But Jose Altuve, he's willing to go out to left field if that's what it takes. To me, if he is willing to do that, I don't see how something doesn't get done with the Astros. Listen, I don't listen. No offense to the Blue Jays fans out there. I just don't think he's going to go to the Blue Jays. I'd be kind of shocked at this point because honestly, I feel like they have. I'm guessing here. I feel like they have the best offer on the table. If there is a team that's offering, if there's another team offering 6 years, I would imagine it's probably at least around what the Astros offered because the Blue Jays are just being very aggressive. And if he hasn't accepted it, well, I don't know. Is he going to accept it at this point? The Tigers, they seemed like that perfect landing spot based off of, all the boxes being checked, a veteran guy for a young team, AJ Hinch connection, gives him just a guy with a winning pedigree. I think he'd be a great fit there. The ballpark, not an amazing fit. It would be a lot better in Houston or Boston. But that's why I'm saying, if there's a team that checks off all the boxes, including a ballpark that fits him well, the Astros just make the most sense to me. I mean, sure, maybe the Tigers could emerge. We'll see. But that's the latest we have on Alex Bregman. We do have a super chat coming in. Sir Silent of the Fogs, little birdie. Birdie? John Birdie? 1 year, $2 million to the Cubs. Listen, man. Wait, John Birdie did sign, right? That wasn't just like a little report, right? Okay, it is official. Okay, I thought I'd seen that at some point today. John Birdie going to the Chicago Cubs. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. 1 year, $2 million. What a bargain. What a bargain. But speaking of third baseman, Nolan Arenado, John Morosi. Say what you will about John Morosi. Sometimes, he can get a little bit yappy. He kind of just says a lot of things. But, whatever. You got Nolan Arenado news here today. He's telling us that the Nolan Arenado trade market has not progressed recently. Well, the big reason is Alex Bregman. Of course it's not going to progress because you're waiting for Bregman to sign. And that's another thing because if you go into spring training, and again, that goes back to the little report that I have, that the person that I spoke to is having a hard time seeing him signing before spring training. So, if he is still on the board after spring training is really underway, then Arenado, because there's a lot more hoops you got to jump through at that point. You got to figure out the contract. How much money are the Cardinals going to eat? Then you got to figure out the players, and whatnot that would be going back, and forth in the trade. Teams trying to one up, multiple teams wanting Arenado. So that's why I'm saying it might not be. I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing him getting moved if Bregman doesn't get going here. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. Now, with Arenado, if you're thinking about teams, right? Again, it's kind of the same sort of situation with Bregman. You think, okay, Red Sox? Well, but that's another thing. It's another thing. Because there's already hoops that you got to jump through with Arenado, but with the Red Sox, it's not a clean fit. You would have to figure out something with either Masataka Yoshida or Tristan Casas, unless Casas would go back in that deal unless you threw in a lot more players to try and even up those values because Arenado is an underwater value. So that's what I'm saying. The Red Sox, I've been on record multiple times saying I see the fit if they move Casas or Yoshida. I think that's a team that really could use some better defense in the infield. If not the Red Sox, could the Tigers, again, looking for Bregman, if they don't land him, could they be a fallback option? Blue Jays possibly? I don't know. Would he approve a trade there? Would he also approve a trade to Detroit? Getting back to the Alex Bregman part. If that's not a great fit, ballpark-wise, is that really going to be a great fit for Arenado? I keep thinking maybe the Yankees at some point. They have been connected with Arenado, and if the Cardinals can eat a good chunk of that contract, well then, why not? I think the Yankees could make a lot of sense. A good veteran player like him, at the very least, he's going to give you some solid defense. I think the Yankees could be a good fit. I did mention the Royals. They had popped up for Arenado at one point. But again, it really comes down to timing here. If Bregman's going to be on this market for the next month, I don't know, man. I would have a hard time seeing Arenado getting moved. You know what I could also... I wonder if this scenario plays out. Arenado on the trade block all offseason. Ends up staying with the Cardinals. Then all of a sudden, maybe the Cardinals are playing some pretty good baseball at some point. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, could that end up happening? The Cardinals are not a bad team by any means. They're not a great team. But if you get some of those younger guys that step up for them, like Jordan Walker, you know what I mean? Mason Wynn doing a little bit more there. There's a lot of young talent there. Victor Scott, maybe he could emerge. Oh, who knows? Maybe the Cardinals end up being okay. We'll see. I think that'd be pretty funny, though. Now, another guy to talk about is Pete Alonso. We got this report. I thought this was interesting. It felt like a nothing burger at first. But I'm thinking, well, Ben Nicholson-Smith, he's usually pretty solid when it comes to his reporting. So I was thinking, okay, why would he put this out there? So I thought about it a little bit more, but reading it, a source said MLB agents have recently been informed they cannot contact Pete Alonso. This would have to be initiated by Alonso himself. Evidently, Alonso wants to continue working with his agent Scott Boras without hearing from other agents looking to poach him. So my first reaction was, why did he even tweet this? Why is this even out there? Like, I don't get it. But then I thought about it where it's like, okay, well, maybe there's a lot of activity going on. Maybe there are a good amount of agents trying to, because remember, the agents, they make a good pay cut out of these, whatever these guys end up signing for. So I could totally see a scenario where you've been seeing the back and forth with the Mets and the Blue Jays. The Angels have come up. A couple other teams have popped up. And if there's a possibility where Alonso, who I think probably just wants to go back to the Mets, why would you not want to go back to the Mets, right? I mean, homegrown talent. He's been a fan favorite. There's a clear need for him in the lineup there. I mean, what's the problem? And honestly, I think we can all agree, I think Boras has been the problem here. So if there's maybe some stuff going on behind the scenes where, who knows, could he be, or maybe agents think at least, maybe he could be frustrated. Maybe there's been some people reaching out through the grapevine and trying to see if, maybe he could be willing to switch agents. Or at least there's been an inquiry. But he's, again, getting back to this tweet, he wants to stay with Scott Boras. I'll say this. I think if Pete Alonso, because you also have to think, too, there was also that report not too long ago that Pete Alonso came up with his own offer for the Mets. That tells me that he wants to just figure something out. But whatever's going on here in Boris land, they're not making it happen. You saw the Blue Jays. I was told a little while ago that there was something very close with the Blue Jays and Pete Alonso. Seems like they're probably just being used for leverage, but could they end up being the landing spot? You've had Steve Cohen come out and say he's frustrated with the negotiations. It sounds like a lot of things telling us that there could maybe be some frustration going on with Boris here. And Alonso, he doesn't come off, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I could be way off on this. I could be. He doesn't come off as a guy that's looking for a massive payday. He comes off as a guy to me that probably just wants a fair payday, right? Like most players do. But it looks like he's not, it seems to me, he seems like a guy that's not trying to get a juicy fat deal. I think he just wants to get a fair deal, and he wants to be back with the Mets. But it's not happening. So, I don't know, man. I just think Scott Boras is, once again, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said this the other night. Unless you're like Juan Soto, like top player, upper echelon player, Pete Alonso's a really good player, but he's not Juan Soto level. I feel like those are the guys that should be with Boras. You know, the mega deals, the $30 million a year plus kind of a guys. The guys that are in that $20 to $25 million range, more often than not, we've been seeing lately that these guys are not having a good time in free agency. They did figure it out with Blake Snell. All right, that was a nightmare for him last year, and it was looking like an absolute nightmare until he figured it out in the second half. And luckily, the Dodgers were there and willing to give him a deal. So he was lucky in that part. But I just wonder if there's more going on here behind the scenes than that is not being reported. Marcus Stroman unfollowed the Yankees today on Instagram or yesterday or whatever. And you'd probably be thinking, oh, Robbie, this isn't news. Listen, we know Marcus Stroman. He's pretty big when it comes to social media. Okay? He's a guy that's active out there. Listen, I think if Marcus Stroman, a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, I mean, come on. I mean, and also there was the guy who posted this. Someone said, was he ever following them? And this guy said, yeah, I'll admit this might sound a bit loserish, but I've been keeping an eye on it. And he was following them as recently as 2 days ago. And now he's not following them. I know a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't really mean anything. I think Marcus Stroman, knowing how active he is on social media, if he unfollowed the Yankees, there's something going on there, right? So maybe a trade could be in the works. I mean, because really, when you think about it, I mean, there's not really a whole lot of opportunity for Stroman at this point unless he's like a long relief kind of a guy. And with Stroman, he is going to be making a good amount of money over the next couple of years. And maybe the Yankees would like to use that money to possibly acquire something, someone for third base, right? As of right now, you got Cabrera, you got Peraza, you got DJ LeMahieu, however that ends up shaking out. Or maybe you could move Stroman, try and save yourself some cash and use that. Maybe you could even use that towards, putting it towards Nolan Arenado. You know what I mean? I mean, right now, Stroman, unless an injury happens, he's on the outside looking in. He's looking like really a long reliever at this point. I think he'd be better served helping out a team elsewhere. I wonder if a team like Oakland, oh my goodness, I can't get Oakland out of my head. Sacramento. I wonder if Sacramento could end up possibly emerging, right? Trying to get some more pitching. Maybe the Tigers, if they want to add some more pitching. Padres, maybe. I don't know. There's payroll concerns there. I mean, if I'm looking at some teams that could use some more starting pitching. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking it was Stroman. I think of a guy that gets a lot of ground balls, right? Don't think he's going back to the Cubs. I don't see that one happening. So I'm saying, like, maybe the A's You could use a little bit more pitching, and there has been pressure on them this offseason to add some money to the payroll. So maybe that could be an addition, Sacramento, maybe Marcus Stroman would like it out there. Maybe the Guardians, maybe they want to try and add a little bit more to this rotation. The Angels, I remember a few years ago, the Angels, they felt like a great fit for Stroman. I mean, listen, they want some more. If you want more pitching, well, why not? Stroman, I mean, I don't think that would be a terrible fit overall. I don't think the Nationals, the Orioles, I think the Orioles need to look for either Dylan Cease or Michael King. That's what I think, right? Could you go back to the Blue Jays in division trade, possibly? Giants, maybe. Spacious ballpark. Could be a nice fit. Padres, I don't know. Nope, not going back to the Mets. No on the Cardinals. Brewers? I don't know. Getting Woodruff back. You added Cortez. Maybe the Brewers? Reds? Maybe they want to add a little bit more on the pitching. Astros? No. Rays? No. Royals? No. So that's what I'm thinking. Honestly, I would like to see the A's step up. But yes, I do think there is something to this, especially if he was following the Yankees a couple of days ago. And even Cameron Maybin came out today and said, I think it's safe to say we may be getting some Marcus Stroman news very soon. Let's see. We did have some other moves going on around Major League Baseball. The Reds acquiring Taylor Rogers. Listen, Taylor Rogers, I'm upset because they're breaking up the Rogers brothers. But, there is some cash being moved here. The cash going to Cincinnati is reportedly $6 million, half of Rogers' salary. So you've got to remember, he is making a pretty decent chunk of change this coming year. Very solid lefty reliever. That's going to be a nice setup option at the back end of the bullpen. I was literally just talking today in the Padres video that I did. I was just saying in that video today that I forget what the trade was. Who was it? Oh, for Robert Suarez. I was thinking maybe the Reds could be a good landing spot for Robert Suarez. And, they decided to go with a lefty setup man, which actually, now that I think about it, makes a little bit more sense because they needed more of a high leverage lefty at the back end of the bullpen. I like this move, right? He's been just one of these low-key guys that, he gives you a different look from the left side. I like the addition of Taylor Rogers to the Reds, and they did need to improve this bullpen. So, I like it. Speaking of bullpen, Tommy Kahnle going to the Tigers. Saw a lot of Red Sox fans today upset. About Tommy Kahnle going to the Tigers. I mean, I see the idea of Kahnle. I do. But I felt like there were people getting a little too upset about the Red Sox not getting him. I would have liked Kahnle if they brought him in. Sure. He's an interesting guy to add to your bullpen. With Kahnle, you're getting a ton of changeups. That's where I could see the fit with the Red Sox. Sorry to make this about the Red Sox. I'm just pointing it out really quick. Because the Red Sox, they got away from fastballs a lot this past year, and he's mainly a changeup heavy guy. But with Kahnle, a good run value on the changeup there. But other than that, you don't really have much else to play with, right? The four-seamer got hit hard this past year, or got hit harder this past year. 286, 536 on the slugging. What the heck am I saying? But I don't know. I would have been cool with it if they brought him in. And I actually do see why the Tigers were interested here, because when it came to throwing changeups this past year among relievers, Detroit were number one overall. So they like changeups in their bullpen. There's a lot of chaos going on when it comes to the bullpen here in Detroit. A lot of good guys back here in this bullpen. You got Foley. You got, oh no, I forgot how to pronounce it. Is it Brisky? I think it's Brisky. Brisk? Oh, I'm going blank on the pronunciation. I think it's Brisky. Holton, and then you got Kahnle as well. Will Vest. I mean, look at the back end of this bullpen. I mean, you got a lot of options back here. I think it's a solid move. And don't forget about Brant Herter back here. A lot of good pitching. Thank you, Tiger Town. Brisky. Sorry. I went blank on that. So, overall, good move. Again, Red Sox fans, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I know this is not monster territory. I know this is the main channel here. We're talking all things baseball, but Red Sox fans, don't be upset about this one. There's still a lot of relievers out there. I just think there's just so many guys still out there, not even free agents. There's so many possibilities in the trade market. It feels like there's so much more that needs to be done, and we got like a few weeks here. You're going to start seeing some stuff pick up. So whatever, Red Sox fans, whatever, if you really want a Tommy Kahnle, I think, it'll be all right. There's a lot of other guys out there. Now, for the Red Sox, I think David Robertson would make a lot of sense. I think we had one more. Mets bringing back Ryan Stanek. Hey, for the Mets, you had a lot of good vibes going on this past year. You're bringing back guys into the fold. Could they bring back Jose Iglesias? I think that could still happen. And obviously Juan Soto. And keeping the band together here, I like what the Mets are doing here. Why not? You had a lot of magic this past year. Keep that together as much as possible. But everyone, I think that's all I got here for tonight. I do have a super chat coming in. From Sean. How we doing? $2. How about Stroman to the Reds for Candelario? Possible. Yeah, actually. I like that. I mean, now, I think that the only thing there is, would the Yankees be okay with bringing in Candelario? I mean, again, if you're just doing the contract swap and they're looking for a third baseman, why not? I think they were. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, but I feel like the Yankees were connected with Candelario at one point. Whether that was a trade a couple of years ago before he became a free agent, or were they interested in him in free agency? I feel like the Yankees were connected with him at one point. I see the idea there, right? Just do a bit of a swap. The Reds can add some more pitching, and the Yankees get a third baseman. I like that idea. Very solid. I think that's a good idea. I might even take that from you, Sean. I have a video coming up. I'm going to be doing one more trade for each team. You guys love those videos. You love those videos. I think I might take that. If I do take it, I'm going to give you credit for that, my friend. I'm going to give you credit for that. So I like that. The more I think about that, I think that's actually pretty nifty. Do we have any other super chats coming in? I think, nope, that was all we got. But again, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. We're trying to get through this quiet, downtime right now, waiting for these guys to sign. I think we're all kind of ready for this offseason to just kind of wrap up here. I think we're all pretty close to getting into spring training, season previews. I'm ready for that as well. I'm very excited to start doing, like breakout players for this coming year, MVP predictions, obviously World Series predictions. I'm ready to kind of get into that mojo a little bit. I'm excited for it. But everyone, if you can on the way out, just hit that like button for us. We did hit our goal of 100, but if we can add on more, I'll love you forever. And if you are new, think about subscribing. We are trying to get to 50K by opening day. But everyone, thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll talk to you next time.